But if I'm like, no, this particular thing, I'm standing my ground, it's this. They're like, oh, you should be helping for free because you're a woman or you want to help people. So I face that all the time. And I'm like, no, I'm a businesswoman. And let's just be clear, they get paid.
Hey, it's Julian, CEO and founder of LoanOptions.ai, here for another episode of Lost and Founders. Today here with a very special guest, someone who I've known for quite a few years now. Introduce yourself, please.
Yes, I'm Amanda Rose and I have many titles. So I'm founder of Western Sydney Women, Western Sydney Business Women and Western Sydney Executive Women, and also founder of Entrepreneurial and Small Business Women Australia. I'm an advocate, media commentator, and when I say advocate, I mean more for small businesses, media commentator. I love to do a lot of consulting workshops in infrastructure, construction, corporates on how to handle, surviving the career world. So I wear many, many hats.
Yeah, and I think, when I first met you and I was learning about all the things that you do, I was like, okay, yeah, so this is a very, very busy woman. But I love the work that you do because you're actually trying to find ways to get engagement and to get success and have women prosper in the corporate world and in other areas as well. But the way that you do it is not about victimization.
No.
It's very much about empowerment, like real empowerment, not pretend empowerment. And I really love that because I think we both agree that like equal opportunity is like, absolutely paramount and is the way. And I've tried to do that. I'm from a single mum household, right? Single mum, raised 5 kids. Like my mum didn't sit there and feel sorry for herself and whatever. She rolled up her sleeves. She did what she had to do. She showed us the way. And like now, everyone, like all my siblings, I got 2 brothers and 2 sisters. Amazing work ethic.
Yep.
Amazing work ethic. But not once will you ever hear my mum talk about that situation and how hard it was. And, so I love that. It's inspiring. And I think as long as people get the opportunity,
Yes.
you don't want there to be biases in hiring or having less opportunities than what might be available to men and sort of especially with young women or women who have been through a bit of a tricky time. We want to make sure that we're lifting them up. But I'd love to hear how you ended up in this situation. Like, tell me the origin story. What drives you? What motivates you? What made you start this? You would have seen something that was the catalyst.
Well, a lot's driven me for different reasons. So when I first started, I climbed the corporate ladder pretty quickly. I knew that I always wanted, 2 things I always wanted, to be a lawyer because I didn't like injustice. And then I also wanted my own business. But I had a really serious car accident in year 12 and I had 3 months off school. So I missed my trials. I had teachers go, you need to reassess what you're going to do. You can't do law. You won't get in now because you've missed so much school. You go to something else. So I ended up doing business, which is great. But I climbed the corporate ladder very, very quickly. I worked in charity, tech, law. I wanted to get as much experience as I could because I didn't know what I wanted to do next, but I knew I wanted to do something on my own. And my very first business was actually doing graphic design and marketing for sole traders because I come from a tradie family and working class family. So I wanted to help the carpenters and all the people that were trying to build their business. And then it evolved into consultancy. And then I just kept building, doing niche marketing. And at the same time, I kept studying. So I believe that education is very empowering for a lot of people. So I'd find a gap of where I felt I needed to learn more and then studied that. And so I started out in, kind of the marketing space. And then I thought I need to do even more. And I started a media business, which I've since sold, because when I wanted to publish in the media, tips on how to your career and your business, everyone kept saying, can't say that. You'll offend that person. So if I wanted to be pro this person, I'm offending that person. This was a while ago. This is before offense was a thing.
Cancel
right?
culture.
I must have touched it first. and I thought, screw it, can't be that hard. I'll do it myself. And so I did. And within 3 months, it went viral, right? And global. And I was quoted in Time as an internet winging blogger. And it took off. And it's all because I was me. I was communicating from me. And since then, I sold that and then built Western Sydney Women because what triggered that, again, people ignoring me. So essentially, if I get the shits, I start a business. Um, so, and you'll see I have multiple businesses. That's how much people have annoyed me. So I realised for Western Sydney women, I was humiliated at a party actually in the eastern suburbs. They humiliated me when they were introducing me and said, "This is Amanda Rose. She's from Parramatta, but that's okay because she's gorgeous, she's smart, and she's dating a politician." And that's how I was introduced by the host.
Yeah, wow.
And I
This
thought,
is I don't know that you could fit in more disrespect in one introduction.
no, you can't. And the thing is, I'm the most confident person I know. And I just did that head tilt. And I went, right. So I left, never went back. And then I went, because I always wanted to in the back of my head do Western Sydney Women. I went, that's it, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
So I did. And that's been going for 10 years. And then, so I have, that's churning away. And then I started Entrepreneurial and Small Business Women Australia because during lockdowns, women, small business women who were earning just, say, 75 a year under the threshold of GST, they weren't eligible for anything. And I said, well, hang on a minute. These people, this is their job. They need this money. So I started advocating, helping them, and that took off and that's evolved. And now I'm working on women in procurement and getting women in the procurement channel because they're not. And companies like that. So I'm constantly advocating, seeing a gap or where I'm thinking, well, that's not really fair. And that's how I got into media. So in media, I was invited into media by a lot of people. Everywhere I've done it, people say, can you come on? Because I advocate. I don't pick a side because that's the popular side.
Yeah, and I want to, because when we first met, that's exactly what you were doing. And I asked you, I said, oh, it was sort of in the one of the elections, and you said, no, I don't back parties, I back people.
Yes.
And I think you've stayed true to that.
Yeah.
I think some of the commentary that I've seen on, because you're on Sky News and Channel 7 and all that, I think you've stayed true to that. It's like if someone, doesn't matter if, conservative or progressive, which side of politics you're on, if somebody does something that you're not in agreement, if it's not in agreement with your values or what they've promised,
that's right.
It's what accountability, right? Yeah, it's like that's exactly a key thing, right? And I think that's why in the world of politics today, people are upset with Trump. He ran on a certain thing, certain platform, going to do X, Y, Z, and then goes against it, and so he was the anti-war. That happens
everywhere.
Yeah,
it happens everywhere. It's happening here.
Australia
it's
as
happening
well.
in Australia, right? Where people will say what they need to say to get elected and then do what they want and either blame someone else, which is always what they do. They always blame the previous administration, or they say, oh, this is the circumstance, or they gaslight you.
Yeah.
Right? And I like to call that out because I believe that a majority of people want to trust someone. They want someone to advocate for them. And I think people forget that in the political system. And I got into politics late, right? I got into when I was around 30. I started to learn more about politics and I just gravitated towards it a lot. And I went and worked for a politician just so I knew how it worked in federal politics as well. Like if there's a gap, I will go and fill that gap to find out, what I'm doing and what's going on. And I realized it's all one big game, right? And there are a couple of genuine people in that game, but they get flattered and manipulated. It's so vicious. So, and they want you to believe that there's nothing you can do as an individual. And that's why I'm very much a believer in activating people to speak up, because the more people that speak up, they're forced to change.
Well, there's never been a time where, people with a microphone have more power, right? You can have a reel that goes viral.
Yes.
You just need to say what everyone's thinking, but maybe slightly afraid to speak up, because that happens, right? People are worried about losing their jobs, and in the age of cancel culture, through COVID, if you said anything about lockdowns or whatever, and I was fortunate to be self-employed at that point in time, and even if I wasn't, I seriously do not give a fuck. I'm going to say exactly what I think. It gets me into trouble sometimes, but as they say, there's a lot of different sayings, right? Like the worst thing that people can feel about you is indifference, right? It's like I'd rather people love me or hate me, because the people who love me understand that what I'm saying.
Jesus spewed those people out, remember? Lukewarm.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's speaking up and being an advocate, and people are fearful. And in some instances, I understand, especially in media, people are fearful. I mean, when I decided to speak out with politics, regardless of which side, I had to make, it was a sacrifice for me, because federal government, I used to get federal government tenders. I don't get any now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I had to, but mind you, I could see that coming. So I have a multiple revenue streams in my businesses. and I protect myself from that. And that's the biggest thing for me. I want to make sure that I'm never in a position where I have to stay silent when there are people, well, especially businesses being closed down because of decisions government's making.
Yeah, it was a terrible time, and I think a lot of businesses did suffer and still are suffering, which kind of brings me to the next point, which I saw you write that amazing article, and if you aren't following Amanda on Substack, go and follow, and that was an amazing article, and I read it and was like, yep. I already had been creating some videos on the ATO general interest charges rule changes, but I think what a lot of people don't know is just how ruthlessly they're collecting and the mental health effects that's
Yeah,
having on business owners. And when we say small business is the backbone of this country, we're not just saying that. That's a real thing. And these are the mums and dads at your
that's
local
right.
cafe that you love going to. That's like almost a ritual for you and your family. Like I go every Saturday, take my daughter to gymnastics. After gymnastics, we go and have, at a small business, we go and eat at a cafe or a restaurant or whatever. And it's always small businesses. And there's always a mum and dad that's attached to that. You got to remember these small businesses, they're not,
But they're the ones that create community,
yeah,
not the big companies. You don't go to a big chain for a community feel.
yeah, that's right. And so, what they're doing is, they're taking the oxygen out of the small business owners who then feed the big businesses, right? Because that restaurant, that small little cafe, he or she's got to buy their product from somewhere, right? And it's
Right.
usually they're buying it from a larger chain or somewhere, a wholesaler, a distributor, and they're usually much larger businesses than the small, corner cafe. And the mental health aspect you mentioned specifically, like the suicide, the people that are committing suicide or attempting to commit
That's right.
suicide. It's really, really sad to see that, and I wish that, because if you're a small business owner
Yep.
and, the last 5 years haven't been easy, 6 years even, 2019,
Right.
there
It
was
hasn't been easy since the first lockdown.
even before that,
Even
if you
before
remember,
that,
we had
actually.
the bushfires
That's
in
right. The bushfires. That's
2019.
right. Yeah.
We had
And floods.
fires and
Remember at the
floods.
same time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fires and floods and COVID-1, COVID-2, like the two different lockdown scenarios. And then we've had rising interest rates,
Yes.
inflation through the roof. We've had supply chain issues that have
Yeah.
artificially inflated prices.
Yep.
We've had only adversity for the last 6 years. It's like we've had a GFC, but every single year,
Non-stop.
it's really been tough. And in our industry, in our line of work, all we do is work with small businesses. So like, obviously my view is going to be slightly more skewed towards seeing the worst of the worst because people requiring debt to get
Yes.
out of this situation. So of course my view is going to be more negatively skewed about how bad things actually are.
Yep.
But even just with loss rates, like we talk to lenders all the time. Loss rates are skyrocketing. Arrears rates skyrocketing.
Yeah.
Repossessions skyrocketing. There was a talk that I attended from our industry, and there was a gentleman from Pickles who was reporting repossession rates and just how high they are. No one's really talking about this, and it's crazy to me because people have to choose between paying the ATO or keeping the car that lets them keep doing their job, which can allow them to pay the ATO,
That's right.
And a lot of people don't understand or make that connection because maybe their car is just used for leisure. But if you're a
You're a tradie.
transport or if you're in trade, you need your ute to get
Right.
to get to and from jobs. If you're in any of those industries where you need a car, who can really, like, there's not a lot of people that, unless you work in an office in the CBD, you really need a car. Like
Right.
that's the
Especially in
transport,
Western Sydney too.
Western Sydney particularly. And so if the ATO was a business, you would say, private business, you would say what they've done with removing the ability to tax deduct the general interest charges, you would say whoever the CEO of that company is, genius move. But they're not. That's a government department. And
That the taxes that they're collecting pay for their wages.
yeah, it's funded by the small businesses, right? And people often joke that small businesses are the debt collection agencies for the ATO, right? Because they're the ones, they're basically little money collectors for the ATO. But I'm not saying that people shouldn't pay their taxes on time. That's not what I'm
Not
saying.
about that at all.
Everybody should be doing proper provisioning of their money. They should be getting a good accountant. helps them understand that there should be more education. Most small business owners, unfortunately, don't know how to read a P&L properly or their balance sheet. And I feel like, what is the government doing to help them?
Nothing.
No, like absolutely nothing. And no one's telling them you have to start a small business or
No.
whatever, but oftentimes they do it because in order to support their lifestyle, they've maybe got some young kids, and owning a small business means they can have flexibility to pick up the kids from school and not have to put them, here after school care and all these things, which costs a lot of money.
Right.
So sometimes it's a choice. I want to be my own boss. Sometimes it's out of necessity to, have the lifestyle that, they can pick up their children and take them to sport.
And a lot of people get bullied at work or in the workplace, like in construction. So they think, I'll just go do it myself so I can avoid that space.
Absolutely. And so, that's the frustrating part, because they've made that change. They're effectively outsourcing all of the debt and debt collection to the lenders now. So if you're a small business owner, you're like, okay, well, the 12 or 13% I'm going to pay to the ATO in interest charges, that means that effectively my rate has gone up by 12 or 13%. So I can go to a business lender now, even if the interest rate is higher, it's still going to be better for me, provided it's not 11 or 12% worse than the ATO's interest rate. And so now they're going to collect their money in full. The ATO gets paid in full for their tax debt. And now it's the lender's responsibility. But we're already seeing that lenders' loss rates are going up. And so what that actually means is their credit appetite is going to shrink, because that's what happens when loss rates go up. And then it's going to be even harder for small businesses to get access to capital.
That's right.
And
Can we see a trend here of what the government is allowing to happen? They want the small business sector gone.
Yeah.
This current federal Labor government wants small businesses gone.
even some of the other changes, like I went to the Sky News Economic Outlook the other day. I was invited by one of our lenders, and I was just listening. It's no secret I'm not Albanese's biggest fan. And, generally speaking, I take the same approach to you. Like, I'm not overly thrilled with the Liberal Party either, right? It's like we have two terrible choices is my personal view, unfortunately. And I think that, people who have run businesses should be the only people that can run the country. Like, how are you going to let somebody like Albanese, who's been a public servant all his life, dictate what small business,
and Jim Chalmers, who's never worked in the space of finance, just read a Marxist book and decided to, hey, let's write
He's
a
the
budget.
treasurer of our country now. Yeah. I wouldn't let one of our salespeople run finance in my business. I wouldn't let them become the CFO. It's outrageous. It's outrageous. And they pay all these consultants, and that's kind of, we got one of the big four to help us write this budget or whatever, they do. But the reality of it is they're not qualified to run. They wouldn't be in that position if they were in a business. So why would we let them do it at scale?
Right.
But I was listening to the garbage that he was saying. Like, people asked him about questions about the superannuation, and he just kept repeating that the superannuation, the unrealized capital gains.
Yeah.
And he said it only affects 0.5% of the population. And if you listen to that, you go, actually, he's only doing it to the super rich, the 0.05% of the population. But it's so misleading, because superannuation only came in like the early 90s, right? And then it was 3% to begin with. Now it's 12%.
That's right. And forced. You don't have a choice.
And it's not optional. And small business owners are paying that, right? So they're effectively increasing the taxes on small business owners, because it's the small business owners that pay the 12%.
That's right.
And you could say it's the employee entitlements. That's correct. But
it's forced.
It's forced.
That's right.
And so what is actually going to happen is, someone who's 18 or 16 years old gets into the workforce. If they earn the average, which assuming there's no wage growth at all, currently the average is 90,000 to 99,000. They're going to, within 33 to 36 years, in that, have over the cap. So who gets hurt? The younger generation. Once again, our with respect, the boomers have really screwed a lot of things for the younger generation. It's so hard to get into the property market right now for the next generation of people. This doesn't help. This is going to be another thing that future generations of Aussies are just more taxed. That's the way it is.
But it's the narrative, and I think this is what people really need to look at. The fact that they're saying, but they can afford it. right? It's very communistic. It's saying, yeah, but they're the rich, they can afford it. No, because the ultra, ultra rich, which is usually international firms, don't pay any tax at all or very minimal tax,
Well,
right?
they have access to accountants and law firms that give
Exactly.
them the tax havens,
That's
right?
exactly right. So it's not taxing the rich. What it's doing, it's taxing the people that have put in a lot of work and taken advantage of what was available to avoid living off the government in retirement. So why would you demonize the people that are literally not going to take from the government in their retirement? Because that's what they're trying to do. They said they've managed to build this on their own. They won't even take your taxpayer dollars as a pension. They'll live off themselves. Well, we're going to demonize them. And when people say, oh, but they can afford it, it's doing this us versus them.
Yeah.
But if you apply that to someone on $200,000 or $150,000 and someone's on $40,000, same thing. They can afford it. Next minute, it's this person that you're saying it to. Someone on $90,000 versus a person that's living on welfare. Hang on a minute, the $90,000 person, they can afford it, tax them. So that narrative is conditioning people that if someone has more than you should take from them. That is communism.
Yeah, straight up, straight up. And, you know, if somebody's worked hard all their life or anything else, they born into circumstances that meant...
So be it.
So
I
be it.
wasn't. I'm not against that. I think good on them.
Fair
and the
play
fact
to
that
them. Yeah.
exactly. And a lot of people, you know, you got to play the cards you're dealt.
Yep.
Don't sit there and sulk.
Yeah, well, I just finished saying that, you know, I was born into a single mum welfare family, right? That's literally my circumstances. Not once have I ever used that as an excuse for where I am now.
No.
And
That's
you
why
made a joke
you
about
are
the
where you
eastern
are.
suburbs, right? And I get asked all the time, they're like, you live in Parramatta, you know? And like, they're almost like,
You've made
why?
it, buddy. You should leave.
Yeah, like,
I
you
get
know,
that.
why aren't you in the eastern suburbs? Like, why? You know? And it's like,
'Cause I don't hate myself.
I don't have, like, to be honest, I don't have a lot in common with those people.
No.
And it sounds crazy because I have a lot of really good friends that live there.
Yeah.
But just the general stereotypical person in the eastern suburbs, everything is about money. Everything is about status. Everything. I don't care.
It's about image, yeah.
Yeah. For me,
Which
it's
is
like,
actually sad. I actually feel for the people that live in a perpetual state of I've got to have better than this person who hates me. I've got to look good around people who hate me. What
yeah,
life?
it seems like a miserable existence.
Yep.
But, you know, the beaches are beautiful and, you know, all that stuff. There's some great restaurants. But I'm happy to visit and eat at those restaurants
And then leave.
and then go back to my suburban life where, you know, I can leave my front door unlocked. You could say what you want about Western Sydney, but there's a thing that actually Trump talks about it a little bit where he says peace through strength. Like in Granville, for example, where I live, nobody is stealing from your house because you don't know who you're stealing from, right? It's like
That's funny.
there's an element
Fear.
of Russian roulette that it's like, I could steal from this house, right? They've got
But I also could die tomorrow.
so peace through strength. But it feels like a community. You know, I know like 3/4 of my street. You know, my kids can play at the front. Not that I leave them unsupervised, but they could, and nothing would ever happen because the neighbors are looking out for them. There's no idiots driving through the streets speeding through. Like, it's just a good neighborhood, and I'm happy where I am. I have roots there. I know the local business owners. I have my life built around, you know, my mum nearby, my brothers and sisters nearby, my mother-in-law nearby. Like, all of that is really important to me.
Well, that's right.
Whether I have, I would rather have a house with a backyard, front and backyard, that I can have swings and toy sets for my kids versus having an apartment that
with a
looks
view.
with a view. Like, what am I going to do with that? I've got 2 kids, you know. So anyway, there is a little bit of that when you mentioned that the fact that they had sort of, you know, made fun of you.
But
It's
for many years, I would get the whole, you've made it now, come into our group. So at school, I was never in cliques. I was never, you know, my mum used to say, never aspire to be popular, be friends with everyone, right? And it's always been me. But when I got older, it was like high school, but with grown-ups. Oh, you've made it. You can come into our group now. We're going to invite you onto this yacht. We're going to invite you here. And I'm like, no, I'm cool. And I said, yeah, but you've made it now. Like, literally saying that to me. I said, I come from a working class family. I will always be a working class girl, and I'm proud of it. But the further up I climb, the more I'm going to advocate for them. So what they try and do is they try and silence you by removing you from the group that you're advocating for to include and I see it happen all the time. The second people get money, they bolt. They want to be in Watson's Bay and they want to be over there. And good on them if that's what they want to do. but don't then come back and try and say that you care about Western Sydney when you don't.
Yeah. So just on the postcode thing, I think some people ask that, and you just mentioned now that like they'll say, "Oh, you've done well considering," right?
Oh yeah, it's like, well, haven't you done well for yourself considering? I'm like, considering what?
Yeah.
Oh, that you're from Western Sydney. And I'm like, are you for real? Like, depending on who's saying it to me, I will knock them down. Like, don't be so condescending. Are you saying that because I'm from a particular area that I should get a big trophy that I've made it? And I'm like, well, hang on a minute. Let's look at your area and look at all the problems in your area, which I don't because I don't want to.
Yeah.
But that is what people are living under. There's a stigma. So I did a TEDx talk on the stigma of Western Sydney. And the thing was, this weight on people that you couldn't, when you went to apply for a job, people would lie about where they were coming from because they go, where's Mount Druitt or Bankstown? Like, where's that? Oh, is that where the shooting was? And I'm like, there's also a shooting in Potts Point.
Yeah.
Right. So
people forget as well.
They do
right?
forget, right?
Like King's Cross is one of the most, and not as much anymore, but even if you still go there, still one of the most degenerate places.
But every group, every area has it. But it was this Western Sydney thing that you should just be grateful that we've even looked your way, and politicians are like that during the election time, that, Western Sydney, and they like to divide Western Sydney too. So I try and bring people together and say, you know what, if they're talking about Western Sydney, stand up for each other and be proud of where you're from and turn it around. So now I've had people come to me saying, oh, Amanda, I went to a job interview or I was in a meeting and they mocked me from being from, Mount Druitt or Punch Bowl. And I just turned around and said, well, where are you from? And then they were like, oh, some northern beaches or eastern suburbs. Just, pity you, and walked off. And I was laughing because I thought, how horrendous that these poor people, girls in particular, feel like they're, less worthy because of where they were born and raised.
Yeah, and sometimes they'll even give a half truth about what suburb they're in. Like instead of saying Ashfield, they'll say Summer Hill.
Summer Hill.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? If you ever want to annoy anyone in Summer Hill, tell them I'm from Ashfield. I did that to a guy once. He went off his nut. So when I was at,
but like, what is the difference?
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Mate? It's so dumb.
I know, right? I went to an Eastern Suburbs networking event. This is before I wiped doing that when I was insulted. And they had a photographer there, and they said, "Oh, where are you from?" And I said, "Parramatta." She said, "Oh God, no, I can't say that in the paper." I went, "Okay." I went Rose Bay. So it came out in the paper. Amanda Rose from Rose Bay.
That's insane.
I just laughed. I just said, and so I went and told different people I come from different suburbs to see the different reactions. I was testing the area, and it was just hilarious. It was market research. I'm like, who's the asshole here?
Yeah. Well, some of the things that I see businesses do all the time is like they'll have a successful business, and then as soon as they start, getting some success, they're like, "Yep, moving our headquarters to the CBD or Surrey Hills or here or there."
Yes.
And it's like, yeah, I just don't get that.
I'm fine. You know what? I'm fine with that, but don't then come back to Western Sydney. And I know a couple of leaders that do this and a podcaster and said, I'm originally from Punch Bowl. I'm originally from here and I'm originally from here. And I'm like, that's nice. So why do you have a bodyguard with you? Or why are you doing it in a group? And why aren't you just casually walking down the street if this is your area? So it's okay that you left, but don't come back and try and get the credibility and the connection to a community that you abandoned, right?
Yeah.
I don't like that. I think you've got your new space. You've got the world that you want. Don't try and take money or opportunity from the people who stayed.
Yeah.
That's where my problem is.
Yeah,
a lot of sports stars do that. They get famous and then they retire and they need some money, so they come back to Western Sydney and try and do some community thing and make some money. I'm like, no one knows who you are. No one cares who you are because you left.
Yeah.
They want the people who stayed.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think there is a little bit of that. And it there's always going to be a little bit of grifting that goes on because people try and find ways to monetize and hang on to every last thread that they can, especially where you've got like a career where you do have an expiry date like sports. But I want to pick your brain a little bit on where you think the opportunities are for women to enter tech or finance industry or construction and trades. Like, where do you?
Ooh. So I'd say they're two very different things. So the tech, I think there's a lot of opportunity in tech for women. I really do. I think AI, STEM, tech, anything. But the biggest barrier is I'm unfamiliar with it. I don't understand it, right? So I encourage women.
Like self-imposed.
Yeah, so it's like, I don't really know what that is. I have a rule that if I'm uncomfortable, I don't know something, I will go and learn it, right? And thanks to TAFE, in the Institute of Applied Technology, there are a lot of free micro skills in AI, in cyber, to get familiar with the wording, to get familiar with what's included, and then you can build yourself up a quite affordable way through micro credentials to say, actually, I'm good at this. And I've had women do it from all ages in programs that I've run. And they've said, I'm actually really good at this and I'm enjoying it. And then get internships or get jobs or start a business in that space. So I think there are opportunities, but unless you go for them, unless you start to prepare yourself for it, you will miss out.
I think internships are a really good way for them to immerse themselves in what an actual environment looks like. It's no risk for the employer, but it's also it is a little bit of a risk because they could invest 3 months and hate it.
Yeah.
But the reality is, in the
Talk to
scheme of things,
people.
build a network. And
That's right.
You might not like that particular role, but you might find a role that you like within that organization or within that industry. And
enjoy the process.
Yeah.
Like I started a media business and I had no idea what I was doing. I just went, can't be that hard, and Googled how to start an online media business, literally. I Google and I go, can't be that hard. And it took me 2 years to break even, but I did it, right?
Yeah.
So go for it, but build up the skill set you need.
And with internships in particular, right, I think that these days there is the school of thought that maybe people they want to start as the CEO, right? Like
Don't start me on that.
And so, they're not willing to invest 3 months of their time, even if it's just part-time internship, right? They're not willing to invest 3 months of the time that can set their career on the most express lane trajectory you could possibly imagine. And
effort and reward.
I would say that I did work experience at Coca-Cola in IT.
Yeah.
I did work experience on construction sites. I did work experience multiple organizations to learn. I did work experience at an internet cafe because I just loved computers.
I feel like my entire career was work experience.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because that's how you got to see it.
Right?
Yeah.
Everybody's got to do that. Find your fit. It's almost like a free trial, right? That's how you have to see it, right? You would free trial an app on the App Store.
That's
or
right.
you would free trial a whole range of other things.
Right.
Why wouldn't you free trial an industry
before you massively commit to it?
Yeah.
And also, when you learn something from one industry, you can actually use that knowledge to communicate when you're doing something else. But you also mentioned construction, and I think this is an area where you see it everywhere. Government's funding all these programs for women in construction. I've run these programs myself. And the thing is, they are spending millions, and mind you, big business are getting this, not small, with this current federal government, but they're spending millions of dollars on these programs. But the second a diverse woman, right, who has really never experienced a building site before, turns up, right, so gets educated or goes on a tour or, does a program in construction and hears the language on some of these sites, right, they're going, oh my gosh, I don't feel comfortable, and they leave. So the $100,000 you spent on that participant's involvement in that program and that qualification is wasted. So unless you fix the culture, unless you have something where you say, these are the companies that get the tick for good culture, and so others have to live up to it, it's a waste of money. I feel like it's literally a black hole of money because I grew up in building. I know what they're like, right? I can handle it. And I believe that we need to be equipping women on how to handle difficult circumstances because whether it's in construction, engineering, arts, wherever it is, they're going to face assholes, right? They're going to deal with difficult situations. Unless you're equipping them for that, it's irrelevant spending all this money.
I know. And it's probably maybe not exactly the same because there aren't that many. I mean, there are, but I'm just trying to think where there are totally female dominated. And so throwing a male into that environment, maybe like
nursing,
beauty clinics,
stuff
like that, where you would throw. Now, women are just generally more emotionally intelligent and more aware. So if you threw a male into a work environment like that, they'd probably hear conversations that made them uncomfortable as well, right?
But that's right. But
But you just prepare the man. You're like, hey, listen, this is how girls talk.
But that's the thing. It's okay to be different. Oh my gosh, being different is okay. We need to separate the fact that men and women are different to an attitude or treating people poorly, whether you're male or female. Yeah. So bullying and abuse, right? Garbage. That's not gender specific. In my industry, or my experience, male and females can be like that, right? It's about this is how people work differently, like different industries that work differently. But to kind of mute people to that they all have to act the same way and do the same thing, you're going to lose the talent and the skill and the creativity,
I listened to a podcast yesterday where they were talking about if, maybe we are living in a simulation. And, it's one of those theories that you sort of toy with from time to time, just as far as like some things don't seem to make sense. And the point that was raised is that comedy is like almost like where you detect bugs.
Oh, yeah.
And so like the theory when it's like you detect the glitches through comedy, because if something's funny, like ironically, then you kind of go, okay, well, there's a flaw in the code here, right? So one of them was like talking specifically about comedy, and then I saw a reel just coincidentally about every guy when a woman turns up to the job site, and it was just people making fun of how silly men become. It's like, oh, what do you mean you crashed my Lamborghini? Oh, don't worry, just come pick up my Ferrari,
Flip the house, bro, flip the house.
And I feel like comedy is like, it's that analogy was so good, because I'm like, yeah, there's a bug there, right? There's a bug
But even that's just, so that scenario is very interesting, right? So the guy's acting silly when, a girl turns up. Do you know there was an actual case where a woman complained officially in a workplace because she wasn't flirted with by guys in the workplace? Like, she felt left out, right? So I actually feel for what I will call the normal bloke, right? The normal guy who's just being them. They're communicating with you, they're talking to you, but everything they do is being analysed. Every single thing. Are you being too nice to her and not to her? Are you being this? And what happens is when that happens overall, the ones that are real predators, the ones that I know and I've worked with that can be real vicious, male and female, but male, in particular, get overlooked. They don't stand out. They're not looking at the ones that are actually flattering you and getting you alone,
buttering you up,
buttering you up and then attacking you, things like that. So we really need to know that, guys, girls, this is how they act. This is what's appropriate. That's fine. This is normal. We need to show people what's not normal. And that, I think, is missing.
Yeah, it is a good point. There is some situations where you do something nice for someone just because it's the right thing to do. It could be open a door.
Oh,
right?
my gosh.
And
I had
so
a guy
now,
ask
oh my
me
God, he's
and say,
flirting with me. It's like,
I've had someone get annoyed. I've had
Yeah.
someone get annoyed because someone opened the door for them.
Yeah, you can't win.
And I'm like, you
can't
opened
win.
my door.
Yeah.
And you changed my tyre.
Yeah,
Like,
that's right.
I mean, I know how to, but I prefer if you did it.
No, that's right. Of course. And I believe that's what men should be doing.
All right,
right?
look, same. I look, and the thing is, what confuses people with me is that I'm not married and I don't have children, so they think I'm this ultra hardcore feminist that is building his empire to take over the world. No, I'm not. This is forced, right?
No.
I'm bloody good at it, and I love helping women. I'm an advocate at heart, and I help men and women, like tradies, small business, and all of that. But the reality is, I am still caring more than anything. I still am more of a nurturer and a community person. I have to be brutal in business to survive in a lot of ways, but it's harder because it's not natural for me to do that. I would much rather, I said once, I'd love just $1 billion and all I do is go and help people. Like, that's my dream. Like, I can build and I'm strategic and I'm great at all that stuff, and I can still apply that in helping people, but all I want to do is help people. I'm not here to make a lot of money. People get shocked that I don't aspire to be multimillionaire. That's not my goal. I just want to help people, but then at the same time I have to make a living in order to be able to do that.
You need the resources.
That's
Somebody
right.
explained that to me the other day. It's like, well, tell me like what you want out of this and your business and all that kind of stuff. And I explained it and I said, look, I want to be in a position where I can pay off my mum's mortgage and I can pay off my mother-in-law's mortgage and retire them. They're both are really hardworking women, so I don't know that they would actually retire. But
yeah, I know, right? But that's the freedom.
The freedom to choose and work by choice, if you want to call it that. And I listed out a whole bunch of things that I wanted to do, and none of them were about me. And it was all about my family and my inner circle. And they're like, yeah, but in order to achieve any of that, there's a chance that you need to be selfish, because you need to understand that for you to hit your goals, that then enables helping others. But you can't say, I want to do this for everyone else.
I wouldn't say it's even being selfish. I say it's being focused.
Yeah.
I think you have to be really, really focused. You have to say no to a lot of things, right? I'm a big believer. No was the first word in life, right? So not mum and dad, it was no. And you have to. And people, and can I just say, being a woman, I'm not sure if it's the same for you, but when I say no to things because they're not going to make me money, right? I'm a bitch. I'm rude. I'm abrupt. I'm mean. I'm like, no, I have an entire business that no one pays a cent to participate in what I do over here, or I'm doing this over here and advocating, or I self-fund something for advocacy. But if I'm like, no, this particular thing, I'm standing my ground, it's this, they're like, oh, you should be helping for free because you're a woman or you want to help people. So I face that all the time. And I'm like, no, I'm a businesswoman. And let's just be clear, they get paid.
Yeah. It's crazy. Sometimes, it's like I saw this meme the other day, and again, this comes back to comedy being the detector of bugs in our simulation. And what it was like that people are happy to pay for. I think this is on LinkedIn. Happy to pay for doctors, happy to pay for lawyers, happy to pay for things, but to get proper financial advice or accounting advice or whatever, like they won't do it. And they're like, you what do you mean you're charging me? Like,
it's amazing, isn't it?
I don't understand this. This is something that can enable you to generate enough money to be able to afford to pay the lawyer and the doctor and all those things. But for some reason, certain industries, they have resigned themselves to the fact that they pay for those services, and other ones they're like, oh no, so you want to help me?
Yeah, but I think think of this, social media has pretty much brainwashed people that if you just watch a couple of reels, you're a finance expert, right? You're an investor expert, but more so than law, more so than anything else, right? So it's very much if you just invest here, or if you do this and you do that, yeah, I can do it. So I think they think to themselves, I don't need to pay for that. I can work it out myself. Okay, mister, you're now bankrupt.
Yeah, like, and the amount of people just on ChatGPT that use ChatGPT as their psychologist, therapist.
See, that worries me. That really worries me.
Sam Altman himself has said that people trust ChatGPT way too much. And the thing is, a lot of them are using free or entry-level versions. So there is data retention, meaning you're effectively giving them your information and they can train the models using your information. The worst thing I see, and this is an absolute massive no-no, if you're a business owner, do not put your customer data into ChatGPT. The only thing that you should be doing if you are going to use it in your business and you need an enterprise account. You also need to write to their team to make sure that you get a statement confirming there is zero data retention. And unless you do that, you're actually volunteering your customer information, which...
And now that small business is no longer exempt from the Privacy Act, you're literally saying, I could be fined for this.
Yeah, give me a fine. You may as well say, give me the biggest fine.
Give me $1 million fine. I've breached. Yeah.
And just same thing on cybersecurity, right? It's like if you don't take reasonable steps, or if you're found to have been negligent, you can be held personally liable.
That's right.
So that means the house that you worked so hard for all those years, all of your personal assets can be...
And we're getting too comfortable with social media and ChatGPT. Like, then it's not your friend. If people could just look at ChatGPT as an assistant that the government's paying, right? If you see it that way, that everything you're telling this assistant, that they could go and tell the government, because essentially they will have access to everything you search, everything you look up, everything you do. And if they bring in legislation that says your language is abusive, or you're being aggressive to a particular group, or that's hate speech in your searches in ChatGPT, don't think they won't come for you.
Yeah, that's the concerning part. And we absolutely should talk about this, is the new legislation around age verification for Google searches. Like, to me, this is insane. And I don't care if you're apolitical, if you lean left or lean right, you absolutely should be against this. There is no reason why the government should have control over our search history, or even ask you to verify your age. Like,
but they conned everyone that this was because they cared about kids. They've never cared about kids, right? It's all about how can we make sure, because how are you going to get adults on board? Get the kids involved.
Yeah,
kids' safety.
It's a narrative they sell. Yeah. Oh,
right?
We need to protect them from.
They're going to watch what you search.
Hate speech and misinformation.
Yeah.
It's just so they can control the narrative. That's all it is. They don't like the fact that there's platforms like X where free speech is encouraged. They don't like that. But what I think is like the antidote to misinformation is more information, right? Yeah. So you can't censor one group. It's like what happened in COVID. They said everything that was censored was misinformation or disinformation.
How can people not see that and not understand that they were lied to? It's open. They've literally, even the lockdowns and the masks and everything, they said, oh, we made it up. Actually, it was a global playbook. It was lockstep globally, right?
Yeah.
But the fact is, they lied to you to get you to do it. So if they've lied to you about that, and your business closed down because of it, what else are they lying to you
Yeah,
about?
it's insane to me. And even the social media, like I don't know, why would you support? How about just be a parent and deny your kid the ability to have a social media account? Like my
How about
my
like
daughter sees her friends on TikTok and all this kind of stuff. She goes, "Oh, like what's TikTok?" I'm like, "You're not getting it until
no,
I say
but
you
you
can
don't
get
need
it."
it.
You just need it. Yeah,
When we had a computer when I was in high school, it was in the living room.
yeah,
They
yeah.
watched
Everything. Yeah,
everything.
exactly.
And then when I had one in my room for a uni, the door remained open and it was the computer was positioned where my parents could look from the doorway of what I was looking at.
Yeah.
And that's just for security and protection for your child and because,
Yeah, there's
kids are
groomers
kids,
and
right?
yeah. But there's all kinds of shit on the internet. Like there's certain things that I won't allow my kids to do. Like I won't let them play like Roblox and games like that where they can online chat. There's absolute creeps
Yeah.
out there. I'm
But
not
don't assume the government cares for you with this digital.
absolutely not.
When they've
Yeah.
allowed games, I mean, some of the games out there that people are playing, the vicious, rape, killing, all of this, that's allowed. That's legal. You can play them, but we want to protect your child online, so we're going to do age verification.
Or gambling.
Oh,
How many more families does gambling have to completely ruin? And like New South Wales has the most pokies per capita in the world, and by a stretch, like more than
because it
Vegas.
all comes
more
down
than,
to money, right?
yeah,
The
the
taxes they're
that they
getting
get
off
on
that,
it.
and they don't care that it destroys family. You know what they do? They do that judgmental. Well, you should know your limits, and you should be able to control yourself. And I'm like, you literally,
These things are gamified and rigged so
they
that you
are.
can't control
I knew
yourself.
someone who worked at a place where they created the pokey machines, and they said all they do is constant psychological tests and tweaks to make sure that you remain on those pokies. What the hell?
The sound effects, the colors. It's literally like
That's not proper. Not even
playing with
proper
your
gambling.
brain. Yeah. Or
It's manipulating your
it is.
brain and controlling you.
And never has there been anything. Like if you go to the casino and you're playing blackjack, right? You've got a better chance of winning a blackjack hand than you do if you know half how to play than you do sitting on the pokies, where they're literally rigged to pay out 9 cents in the dollar or something.
Yeah.
Somewhere between 8 and
It's an
11 cents
active
or 12 cents.
addiction that is killing families, and people are killing themselves. That's another
It's another tax
addiction.
on people.
It is, but
the thing
people are
is-
literally in debt and they kill themselves. So I know a lot of people work in charities that go and visit casinos, and they have, at most casinos, charities there 24/7 because they find dead bodies in the bathroom. People are killing themselves.
That's insane.
Like, and we don't hear about it. Why? Because the elite run that, that whole system. And no, that's just a handful of people won't talk about that. These are families.
But like, if you're somebody who's going through that, you really need to get help. I've seen so many families get totally torn apart, and it's not that like anybody's judging you for falling victim to that. They're literally
You got to choose to get help, and literally go to the people you care about the most and say, "Help me,
help me, help me." And if you're not comfortable talking to your wife about it, grab one of your mates and say, "Mate, you need to fucking
help me,
take me away from these places. Don't put yourself in an environment."
And it's never too deep. So however deep someone is in right now, no matter how deep it is, well, they say that there's no pit so deep that God's love's not deeper still. So no matter how deep you think you're in, I don't care what it is, there is a way out. You can rebuild. I've started from nothing many times myself, not from gambling, but from other things. So, get your mate, get someone and say, help me.
Yeah, and I think if you looked at it as though, and you understood what it was. So the thing is, I'm fortunate enough where I can learn from other people's mistakes. So I see people fall into this, and then I'm like, I never want to do that.
Scares the shit out of you, right?
Same reason why I don't drink alcohol. Like I mentioned before, off camera, that my father was an alcoholic. I looked at that, and there was a saying that I read at the time, and it was like a proverb that said, there's two twin brothers. One of them drank a lot, the other one didn't drink at all, and they asked the brother that drank a lot, why do you drink so much? And he said, I learnt from my father. And then they asked the other brother that didn't drink, and he said, "What?" They say, "Why don't you drink?" And he said, "Well, I learned from my father."
Exactly.
And so it's just a different choice that was made, and you get a totally different outcome, right? And so I'm fortunate, and I know that some people don't have the impulse control or the discipline to say no, or they tried it once because their mate egged them on, and like now they're.
But you can still get help even if you're stuck in it, and I think that's the lie that. I call it the devil's lie, right? That it gets you hooked on something and then it says, you'll never get out of this, you'll never succeed. you're a piece of shit, you'll never make it, all the voices in your head, that's not from you, right? So if that's happening, say, no, I want to change. And I always say, even if you've made a mistake, the next day, his mercies are new every morning. Next day, I said, no, I want to change my life. And you can, regardless of what age. I think the trap is when people think this is just who I am.
Yeah.
No, you can change.
Yeah. And if you look at it as though it is a tax, no one likes paying taxes, but yet they'll happily go and put $1,000 or their whole weekly wage in the pokies, not realizing that how much of that, I don't know, it's like 50% roughly. Like some crazy tax that New South Wales government puts on pokies.
Like cigarettes is 80%, 60 to 80% per packet.
I should probably search that, but it's an enormous tax.
Yeah.
And literally, when you put the $1,000 that you've already paid tax on, right?
Yeah.
You've already paid tax
That's
on that to the
right.
government, sometimes 30%,
Now you pay
sometimes
another
20%,
one.
sometimes 46%.
Yeah.
Now you're putting that money in and paying tax on it again. And if you start to look at it that way, hopefully you'll see things differently for what it is, right? That the only reason those things are there, like in the US, there's only a couple of states that have poker machines, and like Vegas is one of them, right? Like Nevada is one of them. There aren't that many. You can't just walk into a pub. We are so used to it. You walk into any bar,
And you hear it.
right? And it's just at every pub, every bar, every club, and like any RSL, any leagues club, like they're everywhere. You go to another country, they're not as accessible.
No.
Like you need to go out of your way in a lot of cases. Sometimes they're banned completely. And but I think when people look at what we can be doing, these are everyday mums and dads that get caught up in this, and the families get torn apart because of it.
They do. And there's usually a trigger, whether it's they need money quickly, they're in trouble, so they think I'll make some quick money. It's not. It's a lie. You're better off just getting advice from someone who knows finance and say, how do I get out of this mess? Because, the reality is gambling will never help you get out of the hole you're in. Because how many times you've seen people even win with the scratchies at Lotto and lose all the money because they still have the same problem.
Yeah, it's the same thing when people take Ozempic or get the lap band surgery. If you haven't learned the discipline to eat good quality food,
find the
and in
core
right
reason.
amount,
What's the core reason? Like any addiction, anything. And I always say, what's the core reason someone's acting this way? And there's no shame in it, but it's articulating the core. None of this Band-Aid stuff.
They don't. Yeah, I know some people who've had the gastric band or lap band surgery or whatever. I'm not sure what the correct term is, but they've had the surgery to basically cut their stomach and shrink the size of it, and they end up overweight, severely overweight again, because they just continue to eat. And like in the beginning, they only eat a little bit because their stomach can only accept a little bit, but they slowly stretch it.
I know.
Over time.
I've known people like that too.
And if that's where you are, and you really need to lose weight quickly because your mental health and all kinds of things are going wrong in your life, and maybe it's a significant health issue, you need to lose weight fast. There's nothing wrong with using those things. Same thing with Ozempic, but we know those tools have their own side effects or second, third order consequences. So make sure you're using them only if you absolutely have to. One, and two, even if you do decide to use them, no one's going to judge you. But take the steps to fix the core issue. Same thing with gambling or any other impulse control. I've read some studies and stuff, and they talk about how people's brains light up when they're addicted to something. It's like a Christmas tree. You cannot think about anything else.
Just remember
drugs
when
or alcohol or gambling or anything else. Right?
That's right. And the biggest part of an addiction is they want that feeling again, right? So if you look at anyone that's come off, say, a drug addiction, they said, I was perpetually chasing the feeling I had when I first used it.
Yeah.
So they know that you get that fix, and I'm constantly chasing that fix. That's what it is. They're constantly chasing something they're never getting again. And that's the addiction. They're stuck in this cycle. So it's like you got to wean off it and go, why is it you're trying to escape? And it's escapism. Let's face it. Yeah. We're trying to escape the reality, which is horrific because we've been given, governments that treat us poorly, and the economy is skewed to favour the people that essentially avoid paying tax in the system, the small business carrying it. So the people that are usually feeling it the most are the ones that are working the hardest.
What do you think, like, as far as, like, because there needs to be, like, some kind of turning point. Like, I can't see this as being sustainable. Continue to increase taxes, continue to apply pressure. Yeah, yeah. It's like
Just the
when
end
do
of
we
the
get
world.
when do we
Jesus,
get
come back now.
yes, please. When do we get the pitchforks out, so to speak? Like there's got to be a turning point at some point, and I think like I thought that turning point was going to be COVID and the lockdowns, and you started to see people mobilize against.
They are still being mobilised. So if you look at it, they haven't given up. So during the lockdowns and COVID, I think that was when people saw, say, the Liberal Party for who they really were,
Yeah.
right? And then Labor came in. So then we've seen what Labor's really, or federal Labor is really like. And they're starting to say, well, hang on a minute, this is essentially two wings of the same bird in a lot of ways. Usually it's economic policy is the only thing that differentiate them. And then because the Liberal Party didn't really have one in the last election. But if you look at what they agree with, at the top it's very similar. And that's why you're seeing a split with the vote. So, Labor gets around 35%, Liberal got around 33% this election, and the rest went to Teals, independents and smaller parties. That's going to continue, right? I think people are going to split off more and more, and the two major parties work together to try and keep the two major party system going. But Labor's laughing at the moment because they've scooped up so many. But I think there's going to be a revolt in the sense of independents, smaller parties getting more votes. Pauline Hanson, One Nation got, two extra people up. It's the fact that they're like, no, I don't trust the two. And I think that shift in itself is positive in my view because you cannot, essentially the two majors are pretty much the same in about 85, 90% of what they do. They just deliver it differently. So they still vote on the same things. They do deals on certain things. They're both still very friendly with the billionaires and except Labor will bow to the unions and the Liberal Party will bow to, their group of institutional investors and their warlords, at the top type thing. So, but they're still rich people that they're bowing to. Neither of them support the small business. Neither of them support the working class. So the smaller groups are coming up, the smaller independents and the One Nations and, even Gerard Rennick has got his People's First Party that he's trying to get up. So this is where I think the shift is happening, and I think it's going to happen more and more.
Because then it becomes, what I like about that approach is it becomes more about the individual, right?
It does.
You can back someone based on their values, their integrity, and not so much just a party machine, right?
Yeah, I think it's going to backfire. I think people are going to hate the federal Labor because I think state Labor is completely different to federal Labor. So I think federal Labor, I think it's going to backfire. I think within 3 more years of what they're going through, I think people are going to hate them with an absolute passion. Unfortunately, though, they then vote sometimes Greens, thinking that they're an alternative to Labor. And the thing is, it's not the original Greens where they cared about the environment. It's more of
communism now.
Labor's also commie, but the Greens are even more so, right?
It's green communism.
Yeah, right. And so but I think I like to I like people to have an informed choice, make an informed choice, right? So that's why I always speak up saying, well, hang on a minute. People try and accuse me, oh, you're a lib or you're a socialist or you're a capitalist, whatever. And I said, no, I'm trying to show you what's really going on. The one thing we cannot let happen is hopelessness. The second we have individuals, mums, dads, young people feel hopeless, they'll just vote, that donkey vote. They don't care.
Yeah,
we cannot have that.
I think we saw a bit of that this election.
Absolutely. And, that is something that cannot happen. We need to activate the majority of Australians and say, your voice counts and this is who you should, these are your choices. Do it. Don't mess about here.
What people don't realize, even in my team, there was a few people that go, oh, I'm not going to vote, I'll just pay the fine. And I said, they're like, what is my vote going to do? And I just explained it because I don't think a lot of people know this. Labor cleaned the floor with Liberal in terms of how many seats they won this election. But many of the seats are 1%, 0.5% that they won by.
That's right.
So
and preferences are huge.
The preferences then flow through,
That's
etc.
Right.
I don't think people understand how, even when they say, oh, Labor won by a landslide, some seats they really did wipe the floor, right? But in a lot of seats, and probably enough to maybe tip the election the other way, we're talking about maybe 1,000 votes,
right?
A couple thousand.
It's 1,000 people saying I'm not bothering doing it.
Yeah, and so if you have a room full of 20 people and 5 people are saying that, if those 5 people then go and vote and have their the other thing is some people just genuinely don't know how to vote. Like the
Oh,
state election, you just put one
our
number.
system is pretty bad.
I feel like that needs to be unified because people are like, oh, you can just put like I hear 100 people say different things, and like I obviously because I had some exposure to it in my time, but
Yes, I forgot about
yeah,
that.
I learned how it works, and then I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So you should number all the boxes,
Mm.
on the the House of Reps slip, and then on the Senate you need to number 6, or if you really want to be an advanced voter, you can number all of them below the line. But like you don't need to do that. Just do what you're comfortable with, but make sure you're doing it properly. Because if you just
Yes,
put one in one of the slips, like your vote doesn't count. They
that's
literally
right.
throw it out.
Yeah.
And to me, um, it's pretty crazy. I think that not enough people care about it,
Mm.
or
That's hopelessness.
yeah, I was gonna say, or it's they think that their vote can't make a difference.
Well, that's right, because the two major parties are too similar now.
Yeah,
They are so similar, it's scary. And I noticed that more during the lockdowns of what was happening. And I started to see, oh, hang on a minute, there's no real pushback. Like even now, where's the pushback from the Liberal Party on what Labor's doing? There's hardly any. All they're
and the
talking about is
corruption on both
quotas.
sides too, right? You saw the fake anti-Semitism van or whatever in Dural or somewhere northwest-ish. That led to these sort of
The hate laws in
the
the
hate
state
speech
government.
laws
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And then they just didn't turn up for their appearance in the House to be questioned, etc. And then remember Gladys, there was the ICAC, and like nothing happened there.
Mm.
Like now she's a top dog at Optus or whatever. Like I don't even know what she's doing anymore. But like you see these things, and then you just like what? They're just immune to.
It's because often you'll see that both sides, they'll only attack on things that don't really matter. They'll attack each other on things that they can, because the rest they agree on, right? So they'll both pass a particular law. Some might pretend to be against it, but they're not, and they pass it or they do a deal. So they're only usually loud over things that are irrelevant, right? So they might talk about like unions, for example, right? The Liberals will go on and on about the unions with the Labor Party because that's not their mates, right? And then Labor will do the same with Liberal, but the reality is they still both have a group of people that are dictating what to do, how to do it, and the factions are insane, right? So right now, Labor looks like they've got a stronghold, and the Liberal Party too busy bitching about quotas. And having quotas as if anyone cares right now, to be honest, because I know what it's like behind the doors of that place. And unless a whole bunch of people drop dead from old age, they're not going to change the way the system works in the Liberal Party, right? It's male, pale and stale that run the joint, end of story. But the thing is, who's the new blood, right? The new blood, a lot of them are very similar to Labor. Right? So they agree with a lot of Labor. They agree with wind farms and solar panels. They agree with all of that, not pushing back. The Nationals seem a bit different. So the Nationals, even then, I'm not 100% convinced that they're advocating as well as they should, especially for farmers, but they push back. They don't want the net zero, right? So Matt Canavan and people like that, they're the ones giving people hope that there is an alternative to these two major parties. So when they split, I was actually somewhat happy, because I thought, oh, this is actually quite good. I like that they've shown that, no, we're different. But now they're back together again. It's just going to be is it going to make a difference? I don't know.
It's it's frustrating at times for sure. I do think that we as individuals have to make sure that we're doing everything we can to take our life into our own hands and not rely on some people definitely don't think the
Trust
government.
no one, and you're off to a good start. That's
right. And the government is definitely not trying to save you.
Oh gosh,
Definitely
no.
not. Definitely
No.
not trying to help you.
No.
As much as they might give some $200 electricity bill relief. The reason your electricity bill, they gave you $200 relief, but it's $600 more expensive because of their
but
poor
also
decisions, right?
remember, it went through the actual companies and it went to everyone. So the squillionaires still got the relief too. It wasn't means tested. So everyone got it taken off their bill, which really was just a subsidy for the energy
The
companies.
taxpayers, you paid them the tax.
Yeah, and
that
then they
gave you
give it back. I know
$200.
it's
I think just as a general idea, consumption taxes work way better than income taxes. Like, I think if you spend money and you have like a GST, right, that tax is a more efficient because people who spend more will end up paying more, right? And
But we can't have so many. There's taxes, everything.
no, I
Payroll tax,
agree. Yeah.
income tax, GST, company tax. Like you just, and then when you buy
We
stuff,
have
it's
so much natural resources that if we just license them properly, we would be possibly the most wealthy country in the
you mean all
world.
the resources we sell overseas and then tell
And
everyone
then
here
buy it
that
back
we
at 10,000% markup.
yeah,
Yeah, those resources.
those okay, just
You
checking.
know, like I feel like if you were gonna make an argument for, you know, for how our tax system should be structured, it should be based off, you know, like everybody should be almost a shareholder in this country. And if we have natural resources, then we should.
See, the second you start getting sensible,
Yeah.
right, we have a problem.
Why do we not get dividends off our natural resources? Why do we pay?
Because they've
up
told
to
they've
46%
because they've
tax?
convinced most of Australia that our natural resources is the devil and it's causing a shocking change in climate. Even though we don't mind exporting it, buying it back and doing other things and importing wind farms that we didn't even build here, right? So we don't even have the manufacturing of the wind farms that we have here or anything like that. So we've been absolutely conned. And no one, and the people that speak out, sorry, because there are some that do, get called cookers.
Yeah, I've been called that and worse a few times, but you know, it is
Hey,
what it is.
I'm called cooker in the Liberal Party. I'm known as the cooker when they talk about me, and I'm proud of that, right? And call me the chef because I would much rather be called
Cooker
a cooker.
just means critical thinker these
Well,
days.
it also just means calling out BS.
Immune to propaganda.
Immune to propaganda, right? And I'm like, I will blindly, but not blindly, follow God
Yeah.
than the world. I don't care what people think about me, but I do believe that a majority of people in power don't care about anyone but themselves. And that is horrific.
Yeah.
Like they're a family
you want to
suffering.
be. I feel like politics should be a nomination process, not a self volunteer. Like you shouldn't be able to say I want to run the country. It should be selected. Like, you know,
Or isn't that what elections are for?
But
the people we're
who
picking
want to, the people who
have been selected by power brokers.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's no,
That's fair.
but by power
But,
brokers though,
the
we don't have a
everyday
say.
Aussie should be putting, you know, there should, you know, be someone who is a career politician shouldn't be running our country.
There should be
Simple as that.
criteria of you've run a business or you've run a company, built a business or a farmer and that type of thing. But the thing is, in the actual process, as you know, like of getting people pre-selected in Labor, you've got to be part of a faction and pretty much a unionist and they do deals. In the Liberal Party, there's 3 factions versus Labor's 2. But again, you have to be a puppet of the faction. You have to do what that faction says. But what people don't realise about factions on both sides, who's telling that faction what to do, right? So in Labor, it's the unions. In Liberal Party, it's the lobbyists and the power brokers. They're telling the factions what to do, who to pick, so they put them in, so then legislations change to make their clients money.
Yeah.
That's the system. That is nothing to do with us and the individuals. It's horrendous.
I'd love to see someone who, you know, is a respected business leader, you know, put their name forward and have some people.
There's your first problem. Got to find a respected business leader, right? That hasn't sold their soul and removed their spine because the government of the day is giving the money.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, we're lacking them. We find them in the small business world. We'll find them in the medium business world. I know a few in the
maybe
medium
not the large
business.
businesses,
Large
yeah.
businesses, I've seen them, and I'm actually embarrassed by the way they grovel to government. Not all of them, but a majority of them. I'm like, why are you groveling? I'm like, have some self-respect and tell them be a leader, you know, and tell people that's wrong. You know, don't just go, Albanese is great. I'm like, you just destroyed small businesses. How can you think that is great?
Oh, we got to find a positive note to finish on. Amanda?
Positive note. Here's a positive. Are you going to ever run again for politics?
When all is said and done and I've achieved everything I want to in business, it is something I would give another go.
Oh,
sure.
good. And which party would you go for?
Depending on how it's structured, this time I would do it with a major party, but I don't think that I would align with either at the moment.
No.
So it would probably have to be independent on that basis. So
yeah, that's true.
but I just know that after being inside of that and seeing how that played out, it's almost impossible. It's not impossible, but it's almost impossible to win if you're not part of the 2-party system. Like that's the reality of it. And there's some people that say, okay, well, if you can
Well, the
get in,
Teals have proven that you can break free from that, though. So that I think is positive, and that's been
yeah,
happening.
you need
And I think
100 milli or whatever behind you, but yeah,
minor
that
details,
old,
dear,
yeah.
minor details. We'll get the money. Don't worry.
But no, I think that there needs to be more people who actually don't want to be politicians in positions of
Yeah.
public service, not people who were in the Young Libs or Young Labor.
Yeah, and they love the power and the and the profile that comes with it.
You know what was crazy thing that I learned through that process is like if you're in Labor and you vote against, like if you vote against what the rest of your party is voting,
You're
they'll
out.
kick you out.
Yes.
Like that's not democracy at all.
No, but that's Labor. It's always been Labor, right? Which is why they're silent when there are things that happen. So they're not representing their community. The MPs very rarely represent their community because if the community is going against what the government said, they can't go, sorry, my community says no, you get totally out, like gone. Liberals, you're allowed to speak out, right? So Liberals, you're technically allowed to speak out, but what they're doing is they're making sure they're pre-selecting people that don't.
Yeah, so it becomes a self-fulfilling then, right? It's like, oh yeah, you just pick the yes men. Like they're not the people that we need. We need to be having robust discussions within the parties, right? Like, and everybody's representing a different community that have different needs and wants.
That's what it's supposed to be.
I don't care that Newtown is going to have different views on points to,
but they're supposed to represent their people.
Exactly.
That's their job.
But then if you're in Parramatta or somewhere where there's a bit more sort of
they're completely different group of
views.
people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
different
then you
people,
represent them.
different values, different everything.
You don't force it down their throat, which is what's happening. And mind you, Liberals did it as well as Labor. Liberals did it through COVID.
The crazy part to me is that Labor and the churches, this was something, like me personally, I felt very disenfranchised with the church because like you see priests driving around in Benzes and all this kind of stuff. Like that's the first thing. But then they wouldn't support, let's say, for example, the Maronite Church. They wouldn't support a Maronite candidate that is standing up for the Religious Freedom Bill and like all these things. But because like I wasn't offering them tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so now they've got Labor, but like Labor's voting against and the church is actively encouraging people to vote a certain way that completely contradicts the teachings of the church. Yeah. And
that's why God says, test everything that you hear. So when someone, a preacher, minister, priest, anyone is telling you something, God tells you as a child of God to test everything you hear.
Yeah, critical thinking.
So that's right. But if what they are saying goes against what God says, then you should say respectfully, no.
Yeah.
Simple as that. It's up to you as an individual, regardless of what your minister says.
And that's why, like, I'm not disenfranchised with my religion. I'm very, very religious.
No. It's about the individual. It's an individual. It's still a human saying it. You've got to test it.
Yeah.
He said test it, like regardless. Like even if I said someone said something about the Bible, I expect someone to go and find that and test it and make sure it's the truth.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think we just, as a community, we need to be more careful of like who's selling out. Like if you turn up one day to your church and it's got this man's face, like we're taught not to idolize people, but if their face is plastered all around the church, you've got to ask why.
That's right.
Like they don't even have posters of Jesus outside the church. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like what is going on? But it's just a way to manipulate people, and it's easier for guys like, say, Andrew Charlton or whatever to go and talk to a church leader and offer them some money than to actually go and connect with the people that go to that church.
Yeah, well, you'd have to care about the people that go to that church for him to do that.
So that's...
And you don't have someone that comes from the east, plonks into Parramatta, and expect them to care about the people of Parramatta.
Yeah. It was funny because like people ask him, I know people ask him like, oh, how come you haven't moved into that place you bought in Parramatta? You know, it's like a job site.
Haven't you? That's right.
Yeah, anyway. It'll be a job site until he's out of office, but you know.
Oh, no, they want him to be the next Prime Minister. That's why they put him in. They put him in a safe seat in Parramatta because they want to elevate him.
Yeah. Well.
He's a globalist pick.
Yeah, I know. World Economic Forum and all that. But, you know, I think...
But hey, God has the final say, and that keeps me relaxed every day when I want to scream and throw shit.
I've really appreciated your content. I know that sometimes you've got into a bit of trouble saying what you think, but, you know, I think we need more people like you. And, it's like anything, right? I don't have to... we don't, as people, have to agree with everything someone says, but you have to appreciate and respect someone who isn't afraid to, you know, lose money or support
Yep.
over standing up for what's right. And I
Well,
truly respect that about you.
I appreciate that because essentially, and I have this everywhere in my house, that I would rather stand with God and be judged by the world than stand with the world and be judged by God.
Love that. That's a great way to finish. Let's
Done.
finish on that note. Thank you so much. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule and all the TV appearances you do to come and sit with me on my little small business show. But I really do appreciate it. And it's been great getting
No,
to
it's been
meet
fun.
and know you and follow your story and your journey. So
Great.
thank you for all the great work you're doing.
Thank you. That was
you, man.
awesome.